This is a programming stage. I'm Jarosław Chojnacki from Krakow Technology Park. And now please welcome Mateusz Osuch, who will tell us about optimize pipelines for medium and bigger unit and genes projects.
Hi, hello. I will mostly speak about nested prefab issue that I think all of you have stumbled upon if you are working with the Unity. I don't know if you met somebody from Unity Technologies, somewhere here on other conferences, but the best way to irritate them and annoy them is just to ask about nested prefabs and when it will be available to use, because it's a long story when the nested prefabs are not working. So, okay. A little bit about me. I finished the Warsaw University Technology. Well, finish is not maybe the best word, but I did study there. And then for 10 years, I was working in business development, working on things like application servers, web applications, graph database. But then after like 10 years, I decided that it's quite boring and decided to come to the dark side of programming, and I started to work in Vile Monarchs like 1 year ago already. And then, yeah, I was working mostly on the Osuch, the install simulator. And now I'm working on the new, still unannounced project, top secret. So if I will say too much about that project, so stop listening to me, please. And yeah, the new project, what I can say is like economical simulation. And in that game, it's heavy UI based, as you can presume. Yeah, we stumbled again on the problem of nested prefabs because we wanted to have a way to create and modify UIs quite flexible and fast. So the best thing to manage them would be nested prefabs, which are not working really in Unity. So I will say about some solutions that are on the asset store, and also the solution that we are using in our studio, how we work around the problem. So a little bit of theory about what Prefab is. I think most of you already know. It's just an asset type that stores a game object, all of its components, children, and properties. And in that way, you can instantiate other prefab instances quick, and then you can change the looks or behavior of it in a fast way. Yeah, you just go to the original prefab, you change some properties, and there you go. Yeah, you have all the changes propagated to all the instances. So here's the little theory about the prefab. Okay, so, and what's the issue about nested prefabs? I will go to the example of UI. For example, we have the confirmation window with 2 buttons, yeah, OK and cancel. We want the buttons to look the same, and we want the confirmation window to be used in different places of our game. So the logical way is to create a prefab out of the button, yeah, nest it in the window, and then create a prefab out of the window. Yeah, but then if we want to change the looks of the buttons, yeah, if we will go back to the original button prefab, we can change it. But then if we go back to the our confirmation window, the change is not propagated to that window, to the button nested in the window. Yeah, because upon applying the top-level prefab, the confirmation window prefab, Unity breaks the links to the nested prefabs. Yeah, they are not connected to the button prefab. They're only connected to the top-level prefab. the configuration window, yeah, in our case. So we lose the flexibility to change the things in a clean and fast way. Okay, so generally that's the issue. A little bit of story of the issue. The fix for this was first mentioned on Unite 2012 by Unity co-founder Nicholas Francis, who, by the way, doesn't work there anymore. He decided he wanted to do games, not engine. So a few years ago, he changed his job. Then there is a forum thread concerning nested prefabs dating to 2013 with a lot of annoyed people who want the feature to be fixed. And then on the actual roadmap, Unity roadmap, there is nested prefabs are listed, but they are listed with the properties like in progress, time and long, uncertain. So we really do not know if it will happen eventually. I hope, but you never know. We are waiting already 5 years. All right? So what are types of the workarounds? We can either buy a plugin from the asset store, or we can do our own in-house solution. So we'll talk a little bit about the plugins. What are the advantages of using the plugin? Well, it's already there, yeah? You can just go to the asset store and buy it. It's reasonably cheap. Like the plugins that I researched are about $30 or something, and it works. At least it should, in the most cases. But what are the disadvantages? Well, nested prefabs, if you will use them, probably it will be near the core of your game, and you are using a third-party asset near the core of your game. So there are risks that there will be some problems with the plugin, and then you will have to rewrite half of your game. Like, for example, the plugin can be abandoned by the developer, or the upgrade of the Unity engine can destroy the plugin. And yeah, there's also always a risk that the plugin will stop work. So you have to consider it. All right. So in-house solutions. What are the advantages of in-house solutions? It addresses your specific needs. Yeah. Because maybe you don't need the whole nested prefabs thing. Maybe you just have one specific need that can be fixed with nested prefabs, but maybe you can find some other workaround. Like in our case, the managing UI, which I will show later. And you know how it works. You wrote it, or your employee wrote it, so you know how it works, you know how to fix it. You know how to add new features, yeah? And what are the disadvantages? Well, you have to write it, yeah? It takes time and it takes money. So from the production standpoint, you have to consider it, how much it will cost. All right. I made a research about 2 plugins that are on Asset Store that looked quite promising. Also, I made a small performance test. I made a prefab out of the text element. Then I nested it in the button. I made a prefab out of the button. And then I made about 100 copies of the button. And I nested it in the panel. And then I made a prefab out of the panel. And I updated different properties just to check the performances of the plugins. So I will talk about this a little bit. Okay, the first one is a plugin from AntiHero Studios, Prefab, which is on Asset Store since September 2016, and $25. Generally uses reflection and custom field property system to iterate the prefabs in your project and update them, and also uses specific component processors to manage the special components, like text component, outline component, and so on. There's a feature of applying and reverting custom components in the in the object, so you don't have to apply the whole object if you don't want to. There is some implicit behaviors that I didn't find really intuitive in the beginning. Like, for example, it overrided by default the text value of the text component. And in the beginning, I thought it was a bug. But then I reached out to the developer, and he said, no, it's a feature you can see in the code. So yeah, the plugin comes with the source, which is good. But then, yeah, there are some implicit behaviors that I didn't really like too much. Also, I found a quite big performance bug. Like for the test that I did, my Unity editor froze for about a few minutes. So I thought, yeah, I found a bug. I can talk about it. But then I reached to the developer. I told him about my problem, what was my test case. And like after a few hours, he responded me with a new version, with a fix. So it's good, he's responsive, yeah. So there's a chance that if you have a bug or a feature request, he will manage it. The future plans for the plugin just maintenance and client's feature request. Okay, and the other one, the other plugin, Visual Nested Prefabs from Visual Design Cafe, which is on Asset Store just from March 2017. And for our new game, I made a research in November, December, I think, and this plugin wasn't there at the time. And if it was, I think I would really consider using it because it looks really good. How it's working under the hood, there is there's an algorithm who serializes all the components in the prefabs, and there is a difference algorithm which finds the differences between instances and the original prefab, and it's quite efficient, I have to say. On my test, it was really working really fast. It can handle a custom serialized class. Your class or your special custom component just have to be serialized to work with this plugin, which is good. There is explicit prefab override component. So you have the control on what properties you want to override. There is no implicit behavior as in the plugin before. And there is also a special build processor which discards all the plugin's components before the build. So you are sure that the plugin won't influence your build or performance of your build, because it's not really there. It discards the changes, and after the build, it just reverts all the components that the plugin uses, which is good. And then I reached the developer. He still have some plans to develop further the plugin. We want to add some features to hide prefab structure, to have just less populated scene with objects, and just exposing custom properties and components for designers or artists. Then he wants to add a feature of overriding nested prefab connections, so you can change the nested prefabs that are inside. So to create like a complex nested prefab templates, which can be good. And then he wants to add some features relating the prefab inheritance, but he didn't specify what exactly, so I'm not sure. Okay, so these are two promising plugins that are on Asset Store, especially the second one. Okay, so what about our in-house solutions that we used, that we are using? Archetype is a thing that we used in Crush Your Enemies and in Osuch, the install simulator also. So what's the idea? The idea is that we have somewhere on the site, on the working scene, we have an original hierarchy of things that we want to be prefabbed, but we do not prefab it at that place. We modify them, we change them, then we make a duplicate, and then from this duplicate, we made a prefab. Then this prefab, we nest into another archetype, and then again, we duplicate the archetype and apply the duplicate to the prefab. So in that way, we do not lose the links to the original prefabs, in the archetype. Yeah. So it works, but it's really not comfortable to use because, like, if you have more than 3 nesting levels, it's really unusable. You have to make a modification, make a duplicate, apply the prefab, then go to the one nesting level on the top, yeah, and then you have to duplicate it one more time, and it's really uncomfortable to use. Yeah, it works. It works in Crush Your Enemies and it works in OSR, but in larger scale projects, it's unusable. But if you do something small, it can work. Okay. Multiscenes, it's a feature in Unity, which we use also to work around the nested prefab issue, because we treat a subscene as a top level prefab. Yeah, like for example, in our case, we have a lot of UI, and then we divided it into functional pieces. And if we want to use a piece of UI, we just load the scene. Yeah, we don't instantiate the prefab. We just load the scene. So this saves us one nesting level. Yeah, it has some additional advantages also, like ease of collaboration. As you know, like merging and fixing conflicts of scenes assets in version control system is really undoable. You have to choose, if there is a conflict, you have to choose somebody's changes and then rework the thing that the other person did. And if we have it divided into different scenes, there is less chance that 2 people will work on the same scene. Yeah, because every piece is on the other scene, not in the one whole scene. And then you have the memory and space preservation, because you do not, if you have a lot of scenes that uses the UI, you do not instantiate the prefab of UI and every scene. You just load the same scene. Yeah. So in the PC game, maybe it's not that big advantage, but in the mobile games, it can save you a lot of space. Okay, and what are the disadvantages of this approach? You have to write your own system of loading and unloading scenes, yeah, and maintain it. And then, if you want to edit the scenes in edit mode, yeah, the multiple scenes, you have to buy a plugin like Advanced Multiscene, which is working quite good for us. But normally in Unity you can load multiscenes during runtime, but you cannot edit them in the edit time without the plugin. So you need it. But there's also the risk of third-party asset that I was speaking before. Okay, local prefabs. Imagine a table, and the table has rows based on the data that we have, and the rows have cells, and you want the cells to be prefabs, obviously, and also you want a row to be a prefab, because you want to multiplicate it based on the data that you have, yeah? So what we did in this case, we made prefabs out of the cells, as usual, and then on the scene, when there is this table, we made an object with a row, made it inactive to be invisible, and then we point a reference to this row to the script who was managing the table. So the script is treating this object as a prefab, yeah, as a prefab of a row. So when we have data and we have to do some make some rows, we just instantiate this local row, yeah. And it works. It saves us one nesting level also. But what is the disadvantages? The disadvantage of this approach is local. Yeah. So if you want to use this specific row in multiple places in your game, you cannot. Yeah. It's only working in the context of this one table. Okay. Okay, and our style system, which was inspired by CSS. I don't know if you know how it works exactly, the CSS system. Basically, you have the classes that are named, and then in these classes you have properties with values, and really that's it. There's also the system of cascading, of connecting multiple classes in the element. We didn't do that. We just have one class with a name and with properties that are attached to UI element. It's really orthogonal to Unity prefab system, but it addresses our specific need of managing UIs and looks of the UI. So we just we make a configuration of style configuration for a specific element, for example, a text element. Then we set the properties there, like type of the font size, and so on, so on. We can add also some components, like outlines or shadow. Then this configuration has a name. When we do this in edit time, of course. And then to the element on the scene, we just add a special component, and then we specify the name of the configuration. There's an apply button. You click it, and then all the configuration is all the things that you put in the configuration are applied to the element. Yeah. This is the example. Here on the left, you have the configuration editor. Yeah, you can see that you add the name of the configuration, you specify the font, you can add the shadow and outline component, and on the left side, you have the element, on the right side. You have the element with the VM text preset, it's our component, that you specify the name of the configuration, it's here. And then you just click the apply configuration button, and all the configuration or the properties are copied, are applied to the element. And then we have multiple elements using the configuration. And then if you want to change the looks of the text element with this configuration, we just edit the configuration in the editor on the left side, and we just click the save and apply changes. And that's it. Yeah, the configuration are propagated to all the elements. Yeah. The problem is searching of all instances in all scenes of the configuration instances. It's not so optimal for now, so effective, but we will work on this further. And then we have no override system, but override properties system. But for now, we don't need it really. And it works. It really helps us developing our game faster. And last but not least, generic scripts, not in the sense of generic feature of the C# language, but rather we try to find some common space of usage of certain elements, like for example slider. There will be an example with slider. And then we try to put them in one script and just make an interface to set up it properly and use the same script in different places. Like for example, a slider, we can use it to set up temperature, to set up I don't know, date or hours, or set up some money. Then usually you have a label connected to the slider with the scalar value, and this value has a special format. Yeah, like for example, for the temperature, you have some degrees. For hour, there is like sign of an hour. And then we use the delegates to set up the slider. I don't know if it's visible, but we provide in the setup function, we provide the slider with the delegates to format the text value and a callback for on value change event. So we use the same script in multiple places, yeah? Because we know that the behavior of this element is similar, just the details are different. So we try to put the details into the setup function, all other stuff is the same, yeah? So it's, as was written here, it's independent of the object hierarchy structure and visual structure also. So you have to just add the script, set up the references, and set up the delegates, as I showed here in the setup function. And that's it. You can use it in different places. And you know this code works because you use it in multiple places. Yeah, it's already tested. So you can be sure there will be no bugs here. And if you want to modify the behavior, you modify just one script, not every script in your code. Yeah. So we use the generic scripts to different things like sliders here, like to make a tabbed window. Use it also, and some other components, UI components, and it like helps us to work faster and more efficient. All right, more or less that's it. What I wanted to say. Before you will be asking me questions, I wanted to ask if you have some specific workarounds to the problem. And if you want to share it with us or with me after the talk, so I would gladly listen. And my boss here, the one here, he wanted me to say that we are hiring. If you are a talented designer, artist, programmer, or QA specialist, or especially user experience specialist, you can talk to me or you can talk to these two guys here. All right, any questions? Yeah.
For example, let's think about OSER. How long does it take to propagate all the properties in the CSS style example of managing properties?
We didn't use the CSS style system in OSER because we made this system in our new top secret game. Okay. In OSER we use only the archetypes, and it was okay. But like UI in OSER is not that complicated, so it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if it would be more complicated, like in our new game, it's really unusable. The archetype system.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, any more questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mateusz.